House Oversight Chair James Comer there speaking to reporters after closed-door testimony from Ghislaine Maxwell. Comer says Maxwell invoked the Fifth Amendment, but said she would testify if she were given clemency. He says the Clintons will testify on the 26th and 27th. Let's bring in ABC's Jay O'Brien on Capitol Hill. Justice reporter Jack Date for more. Jack, Ghislaine Maxwell has already been convicted. So why plead the Fifth, and how is she trying to get clemency?
Well, I think pleading the Fifth is her right. She can protect herself from any additional potential prosecutions going forward. And also, it puts out of reach anything that she might have to say. And what she's bargaining for is clemency, basically, is her get out of jail card is basically whatever's in her head that she might be able to share. And so that's the only leverage she has at this point, and she's using it.
And we heard Comer saying he doesn't think she should get it. What are the conversations like there in Washington about that?
Well, I think, clearly she's at the center of this most controversial issue, this issue that doesn't seem to go away and is damaging the reputations of Democrats and Republicans alike, of people in business, and some of the wealthiest and most powerful people on the planet. And so, nothing about this is simple. And I think Ghislaine Maxwell, and hearing from her is something that I think a lot of people would want answers, but instead we're getting a lot more questions that go unanswered, including, as we get more and more documents, we just have more questions about them.
Jack, what are you watching for when the Clintons testify before the committee later this month?
Well, clearly there's still some jousting and positioning over how that's going to go down. The Clintons pushing for a public hearing, whereas Chairman James Comer is pushing for a deposition behind closed doors that he would release at a time of his choosing. And I think we're going to continue to see some back and forth until that's resolved. I think the Clintons are trying to control it in terms of having a live audience for it, because it would be sort of one and done, whereas if Comer has a tape deposition, they could sort of roll out information out of that deposition at a time of their choosing.
And Jay, we heard you asking Comer about potentially talking to Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. What did you make of his response there?
Yeah, that is a traditional response that we've heard out of the chairman when we've asked him, will the committee consider subpoenaing anyone else? He said they have some subpoenas to get through, like Jeffrey Epstein's accountant and others in Jeffrey Epstein's orbit. But you heard me ask him there, will the committee consider subpoenaing the Commerce Secretary because of those new revelations we've seen in those more than 3 million pages of Department of Justice records that were released that show, despite Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, saying that he distanced himself from Jeffrey Epstein in the mid-2000s, the two still were in contact all the way up until at least 2018, per the emails we saw in that batch of Epstein files that were released. And what the chairman said there is that they're open to listening to anyone who will have information to give their investigation. Again, he has said that before when we have brought up the names for other subpoenas, but it is notable there that he doesn't rule out subpoenaing the Commerce Secretary or interviewing him in some capacity in their investigation. And by the way, that comes, Diane, while there are growing calls up here on Capitol Hill for the Commerce Secretary to step down. The top Democrat on the same panel that just interviewed Ghislaine Maxwell, despite her pleading the Fifth in various questions, has said, Robert Garcia, that he believes that it's time for Lutnick to resign, saying that in his view, Lutnick was dishonest with the American people about the extent of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And we even heard that from Thomas Massie, a Republican who has long been at odds with the Trump administration on various issues, but was the architect of this law compelling the release of these so-called Epstein files. Now, Commerce Secretary Lutnick has said through a spokesperson from the Commerce Department that he had, quote unquote, very limited interactions with Jeffrey Epstein. Diane.
All right, Jay O'Brien, Jack Date, thank you both.